We don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless has you paying for more data than you might need. Why? They might want you to cover the costs of younger people who do use all that data. If you're not using the data, you're probably being used. We've heard time and time again that some Big Wireless customers get stuck paying hundreds and even thousands more for years and years because they think it's hard to switch. Not with us. It takes just about 20 minutes and you can change your plan anytime without extra charges. We use the same towers as the big guys, so you'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Our plans start at just $20 a month, and for a limited time, switch and get your second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com or a store near you and get your second month free today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional details.
At Audion Hearing, our mission is simple: to make better hearing affordable for everyone. We're proud to offer high-quality, rechargeable hearing aids starting at just $98. Clear, comfortable, and ready to use right out of the box. And here's a study worth hearing. Research shows that wearing hearing aids can reduce your risk of dementia by up to 61%. Join over 1 million happy customers and hear the difference today by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN Hearing.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your day snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We pride ourselves on being able to support veterans in their time of greatest need, ensuring they receive the protections they deserve. For over 100 years, the DAV of Massachusetts has helped thousands of veterans with housing, transportation, and medical assistance, and you can help too. Please visit dav5k.boston and make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical condition, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. Mike, one of the many questions that people have as it relates to Social Security and Medicare is, what's the difference in terms of how much I earn based on when I apply?
Yeah, and there's plenty of confusion around all of this because the ages have changed over the years as we've made reforms to the Social Security program, and there's different ages for Medicare and Social Security. So first things first, for vast majority of folks now, 67 is the current full retirement age. for Social Security, whereas 65 is the eligibility age for Medicare, and then you scale up or down your benefits depending on how much earlier or later you claim when it comes to Social Security.
An important thing to note, you don't have a do-over on this. Basically, when you claim Social Security, that is what you are locking yourself into. The programs where you used to be able to adjust that, they haven't been around for a while now.
No, and so, for example, if you end up claiming your benefit at 62, in addition to having penalties for how much you get in earned income, you're going to be collecting about 30% less than your full retirement benefit, whereas if you wait all the way until age 70, you'll be collecting about 124% of that full retirement age benefit.
Our guide is titled How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare, and there are two ways that you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second is by going to ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request it at ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Hope y'all had a great weekend. It's Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you. And we've got a busy week on tap here as far as a combination of economic data. We've got earnings season kicking off as well. Tomorrow we're going to be getting the CPI data, Consumer Price Index, at 8:30 a.m. Also new home sales data coming out at 10 a.m. Wednesday, we've got the Producer Price Index at 8:30 a.m. along with retail sales, and then existing home sales come out at 10 a.m. Thursday, we've got weekly jobless claims. So again, not nothing. You got, some pretty decent stuff that we're going to be looking at this week. And then on the earnings side of things, tomorrow we've got JP Morgan, Bank New York Mellon, and Delta. We've got Bank of America, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo on Wednesday. And then Thursday, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and BlackRock all reporting. So overall, pretty busy week as we continue into the new year. I do believe it's no longer appropriate to say Happy New Year. You can only say it with a question now. Hey, Mike, Happy New Year?
I've been trying to trick people into saying Happy New Year to Tucker on the show every day. But we basically did just say Happy New Year, so I think we got it covered for today. I asked Paul yesterday, hey, Paul, have you seen Tucker yet since 2025?
Had he?
Do you have anything to say?
Had you seen him?
He had not, and he said Happy New Year.
Well,
so.
that's great.
Yeah.
In any case, over the weekend, rather last night, I think it was maybe 7 o'clock, 7:30 or so.
Yes.
Jay Powell, or not him, I'm sure he doesn't run the Federal Reserve's website.
Or X account.
Either one. I'm sure it's not really his thing. But the Federal Reserve put up a video of Jay Powell, and here is what Jay had to say.
On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned, in part, a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people.
Okay, so Jay Powell saying, hey, on Friday we received, a subpoena from a grand jury requesting information. It is ostensibly related to the renovation project at the Fed.
And the testimony that he gave about it.
Yep, and then Jay saying, in no uncertain terms, this is not what this is actually about. This is about the president trying to use this to force me to lower interest rates where the Federal Reserve Committee doesn't believe it's warranted. So my first take on this when I heard it is, y'all ever watch Wolf of Wall Street?
Yes.
You got Leo standing up there and, he's thinking about stepping down. Yep. And then he goes, I'm not effing leaving. Like, that's basically, Jay Powell doesn't really answer these questions ever. Like, pretty much whenever asked questions about any of this stuff, he has generally said, that's not for me to say. There's, an ongoing project. We're not going to talk about this. This is for Congress. This is for the executive branch. Like, he basically always defers on this.
He could teach a master class in speaking for 4 hours while not answering any questions.
The fact that he came out and said, this is not about what it sounds like it is about as aggressive as you will get Jay Powell to be.
Yeah, it's a huge departure for him and frankly, any recent leader of the Federal Reserve.
Correct. And so I think it puts Powell and the executive branch on a clear collision course where someone is either going to have to back down on this, or it's going to be a very nasty, ugly public fight that I have no idea how it will resolve.
Right. And let's be clear. It's not as though Chuck and I have any idea what the grand jury is reviewing. No. Perhaps there is incredibly damning evidence of Jay Powell that is being presented, but if there were, I would have expected to see it by now, I guess, is the concern. But nonetheless, this is going to proceed, and with a lot of these grand juries that have happened recently over the course of the last year, there's many of them that have not gotten very far at all. They've been tossed out pretty immediately, and so I don't think it's going to take months and years to discover, what it is the White House is attempting to do here and what evidence they have to support their claims.
Well, I hope if you're on the grand jury, it doesn't take years.
Right.
You got to get back to work.
Pretty quick.
So I think, look, ultimately, we don't know anything about the facts that are being debated by the grand jury. I couldn't tell you if there's anything legit in there or not. This is the same thing that we said last summer when this was, first being brought up. What I can tell you is whatever's going on with the renovation at the Fed, A, it's being paid for by the Fed. It's not like taxpayer dollars are on the hook. B, it's something where it's not, impacting positively or negatively Jay Powell and the whole rest of the crew's ability to manage interest rates. There have been times in the last, decades under Powell where I think the Fed's done an admirable job managing things. There are times when I think they've done a remarkably poor job that I think Mark Fandetti would adequately characterize as a what's the word?
Failure.
That's
Yes.
the one.
Yeah.
So I think that when you look at this, ultimately, it boils down to one question more than anything else, and that is, should there be an independent Federal Reserve? How bright should those lines be? And what are the pros and cons of central bank independence? Because that's the whole ball game here that we're getting at.
Yeah, and by the way, like my personal hope, how do I say this right? I wouldn't want to see a corrupt head of the Federal Reserve, but I kind of hope that there is some very clear evidence here, because if not, if this is a bullying intimidation aspect here, then it is going to get much uglier and going to be really problematic for the entire future of the Fed for a whole bunch of reasons. The biggest one has to do with the fact that it is a committee that very much believes they themselves should be independent. And so I'm kind of sitting here saying, wow, I hope that there is some really damning evidence for Jay Powell that causes him to be in some serious hot water, because if there isn't, then it is pure intimidation and a really dangerous threat to the Federal Reserve and to just kind of generally our financial system.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's kind of start from the first question that this all resides upon. Is an independent central bank a good or bad thing? We'll discuss right after this.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Social Security and Medicare are oftentimes lumped together, but may be handled separately. And depending on your strategy, they could shape your entire retirement plan. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Choosing when to start Social Security has many effects, including determining the amount of guaranteed income you receive each month. Medicare decisions go beyond coverage, as they can impact premiums, out-of-pocket costs, and access to providers throughout retirement. Our new guide is called How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. It will help you learn how these decisions may fit together and how to take the right steps at the right time to build a secure retirement plan. Call us at 800-393-4001 to get your copy of How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request it online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away, but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your day snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com. This is a message for families who've been putting off their estate planning from the elder law attorneys at Cushing & Dolan. One of the biggest myths about long-term care is that if you didn't plan 5 years ahead, you're out of options. That's simply not true. When a health crisis hits and a loved one needs nursing home care, many families panic and start writing checks for care that may cost over $10,000 a month. The reality is, there may still be meaningful legal options available, even when planning starts late. Cushing & Dolan have just released a new guide called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. It breaks down what the 5-year look-back really means and what steps can still be considered before making decisions that can be incredibly costly. If you're worried about protecting your family and securing your financial future, call Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699 to get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out?
but you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Subscribe to our page and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, so we're talking about the idea of central bank independence here. And question that we need to start from, is central bank independence a good or bad thing? And I think even before there, we have to kind of define what central bank independence actually means. So I don't think anyone is, sitting out there suggesting, hey, let's go and just, we're not going to, control monetary policy at all. We're just going to let, JP Morgan Chase, whatever they want to do is going to be, what monetary policy is.
Sure. So, prior to 1950, the Federal Reserve was basically an arm of Treasury.
Correct.
Right? So that's what we're talking about by...
Yes and no.
Yeah.
There was something basically called the Fed Treasury Accord where they basically, in order to finance the World War II effort, worked together for, almost a decade in order to make sure that the U.S. could finance it. And they still almost didn't because it's really hard to finance World War II. The way that it works right now, on the Federal Open Market Committee, there are two distinct groups. There are members of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, and there are members of presidents of the 12 regional Federal Reserve banks.
Yep.
The way that this works, the Federal Reserve banks, those 12 regional ones, they are not presidential appointees. They are selected by their regional bank's board of directors, and their appointment must be approved by the Board of Governors, but not by the Senate, so they're not Senate approved. And they serve renewable 5-year terms. They rotate through the FOMC. So 5 of them are voting in any particular year. The other 7 do not. The Federal Reserve Board of Governors, there are 7 of them, so a majority of voting members in any year are from that Board of Governors.
Yep.
They have to be nominated by the President of the United States. They have to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate. And terms are 14 years. And they are staggered, for those. Sure. And the chair and vice chair are picked from the governors, and those are Senate confirmed as well for 4-year leadership terms. So basically what you have is a slight majority of members of the voting committee at any point in time are confirmed by the U.S. Senate after being proposed by the president. So we're not just saying, hey, get, anyone off the street and run this. It still is something that does have congressional oversight through who gets voted into the majority of spots on the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee.
Okay, yeah, good distinction. It is still influenced by the White House, but given the term length and everything else, it is not as though the current executive can dramatically currently influence interest rate setting policy.
And the removal is generally understood to be for cause only, and cause is not, hey, Jay Powell showed up late to work today.
Right.
Cause is generally, believed to be not even I'm disagreeing with you on rate policy, but hey, you did something. It's like how, the Supreme Court defines pornography. You know it when you see it. You did something wrong.
And by the way, we're about to find that out because one of them is taking one of the Federal Reserve appointees, not Jay Powell, but one of the Federal Reserve appointees that President Trump attempted to fire is suing the government over the removal, and we're going to find out where that line really is, according to the Supreme Court, pretty darn soon.
Correct. So when we talk about, now that we've kind of defined what Fed independence is and isn't, is it a good or bad thing?
You and I believe good.
Look, yes, quite simply, I believe it's a good thing, and here's why. What I want everyone to do right now, unless you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if you're not driving, close your eyes. If you're driving, keep them open. But I want you to picture in your mind's eye the politician that you believe to be least qualified to run monetary policy. It may be a Democrat. It may be a Republican. It may be an independent. It may be a 30-year-old. It may be a 60-year-old. It may be an 18-year-old. Whoever it might be, I want you to picture that person where you're like, man, those ideas are bad. And now what I want you to imagine is that at some unforeseen point in time in the future, maybe it's 2028, 2032, 2036, 2040, whenever it may be that there's a presidential election, I want you to imagine that person comes into the Oval Office and says, can't wait to set interest rates.
Yeah.
And this is ultimately why you don't want the president specifically, like the presidency, to be able to decide interest rates, is because there is no president in the history of the United States who would ever sit there and say, hey, you know what we really need? We got to raise the cost of borrowing for businesses and households. That's really going to get me reelected.
Yeah.
It's a one-way street. Presidents want lower rates always.
They tend to influence more business activity. They have a tail risk of higher inflation, but it is a tail risk that usually comes on a fair bit later, and a president's job is to get reelected. And so
correct.
You might, I hate saying that out loud, but that's reality. When you serve a first term, that's a big goal of yours, is to get reelected to a second term. And so good way to do that, juice the economy, make sure unemployment stays low, even if there is a tail risk of inflation down the road. We have seen this in many other countries that are, granted, far less stable than the United States is, but go look at Turkey, go look at many other countries that do not have an independent central bank. That's what you get.
So the idea of, hey, the central bank has, presidential appointed, Senate confirmed voting members that are in the majority on that open market committee, what it does is, again, they cannot be removed except for cause. It allows them to vote not based on the political whims of any one particular point in time, but rather based on what they believe to be right. And by the way, they're going to be wrong a decent amount. I want you to, travel with me. Tuck, can you get the time machine fired up? We don't need too much juice in it. We're just going back 4 years now. But we're all going to go back to January of 2022. And inflation is north of 7% on its way to 9%. And Jay Powell and crew are hiking interest rates 0.25% at a time because they don't want to break something. They're a little... And look, they did a bad job in late 21 and through all of 22, in my opinion. They were wrong. But they weren't wrong because they were sitting there this is what the White House wants. Jay's not sitting there being like, well, I need to get reelected. Jay doesn't get elected that way. It doesn't work that way for him. So ultimately, I think that when you look at this, it's something where I do believe in central bank independence because you don't want the power to control the money supply to be held by the same person that is going out campaigning for votes at any particular point in time. And this is before you even get to the qualifications of, whoever might come into the office at some point in the future. What if we elect an actual dog to the office?
So two things that I want to set up for you. Talked about on a collision course here. Powell's term as chair is up in May. His term sitting on the Federal Reserve is not.
It's not.
He could sit on there and basically be a dueling influence for voting members of the Fed if he wants to really dig in here. And that is ugly if you have that come this year of Kevin versus Jay trying to influence Federal Reserve members. Two.
Which Kevin?
Right. You are now, as the new incoming Fed, going to have to prove to every single Federal Reserve voting member that what you are trying to do is not because of influence from the White House. This is making the next person's job way more difficult, and I think is frankly shooting himself in the foot by doing this.
And also, by the way, doesn't mean that Jay Powell's necessarily right in doing that. It could cause problems. Quick break. Wall Street Watch is next.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your day snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Retirement comes with a lot of exciting freedom, but also with some permanent decisions. 2 of the most important ones are when to file for Social Security and how to set up your Medicare coverage. Claim Social Security too early and your monthly check may be permanently reduced. Missing Medicare enrollment deadlines might mean significant penalties and gaps in coverage. We have a new guide available called How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. It breaks down when you can apply, what information you'll need, and how these decisions fit into a smart, coordinated retirement plan. Get your copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
It happens all over Massachusetts. In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
This is Tucker Silva, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And we're talking about last-minute nursing home lessons that can help save your assets. What can be done last minute to save your home and your liquid assets when one spouse is entering the nursing home?
So with a married couple, you do have more options than as a single person, but with a married couple, your home is not at risk because the community spouse living in the home is allowed to keep the home. Doesn't matter the value, as long as they're living there, it's not countable and non-lienable. They also give the healthy spouse about $135,000 to keep. It's not a lot when you think of the big picture, but all the rest of the money would be at risk. But at least a quick last-minute way of protecting all those other dollars, all over and above that $135,000, would be to basically transfer the assets, those excess assets, to the community spouse, which, by the way, is not a disqualifying transfer, so no 5-year waiting period. And then once that community spouse gets those assets, depending on their age, they can buy what is known as a Medicaid qualifying annuity. These are special annuities. They convert the excess assets into an income stream, and then it's no longer an asset, keeping the community spouse over assets. Then the community spouse and the sick spouse are under assets, and they're eligible for Medicaid.
Cushing and Dolan has written a brand new guide, especially for those of you who have put off doing your planning and are now faced with a last-minute nursing home situation. Request this brand new guide from Cushing and Dolan at 866-848-5699. It's called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. 866-848-5699. Or if you prefer, you can simply go to their website, legalexchangeshow.com, and request it there.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Markets beginning the week slightly in the red as investors ready for a busy week ahead, including a fresh look at inflation tomorrow morning with the Consumer Price Index, in addition to retail sales and bank earnings this week. But the big story today surrounds the Fed, following news that U.S. prosecutors are investigating Fed Chair Jerome Powell over his testimony about the central bank's building renovation project. Right now, the Dow is off 0.4% or 210 points lower. S&P 500 down nearly 0.2% or 11 points lower. NASDAQ down 0.1% or 26 points lower. Russell 2000 is off nearly 0.5%. 10-year Treasury yield up 1 basis point at 4.187%. And crude oil off about 0.4%, trading just below $59 a barrel. Several bank stocks seeing losses on the day after President Trump called for credit card rates to be capped at 10% for 1 year. Trump did not provide additional details on how it would work. JP Morgan, Visa, and MasterCard are down by about 2%. Meanwhile, Walmart stock is up 2% after the NASDAQ said the retail giant will be added to the NASDAQ 100 index later this month. Elsewhere, Lululemon shares are up 1% after the athleisure wear retailer said it sees its holiday quarter sales to be on the higher end of its guidance, where its net revenue was expected to be as much as $3.585 billion. In more developments on the Warner Brothers Discovery front, Paramount said this morning it plans to launch a proxy fight for board seats at Warner Brothers Discovery as it continues pushing its hostile bid for the company. Paramount also filed a lawsuit seeking to force Warner to release more information about its merger agreement with Netflix. Warner stock is down by about 2%. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the labor market for everything we talked about in the first couple of segments regarding Jay Powell potentially or not potentially being under criminal investigation from a grand jury subpoena. Powell said, hey, this is not about the renovation. He said this is about the president wanting me to lower interest rates. The interesting piece to me, not the interesting piece, but an interesting piece to me is, hey, the labor market is flashing signs that maybe lower interest rates actually could be warranted. So this is something where when we look at the labor market data right now, and again, don't look at any one piece of data because, remember, these are all surveys and estimates. Like there's nothing out there that definitively says like this many jobs were created versus that many. It's it's
an estimate. It's a guess.
We never will have that. What we do have are different data sets from which we can glean what may or may not be happening. Ultimately, the reason why we care about jobs data, and this is kind of a dirty little secret here, it's not because of the jobs. It's because of the spending generated by those jobs.
Sure. If you're trying to fast forward and figure out what the economy is going to look like, whether or not people are working is usually a pretty good indicator given how consumer-focused our economy is. We can talk about how that's changed a little bit, or we think it might have changed a little bit recently with boomers retiring, but yeah, that's kind of the idea.
The reason why it matters is that ultimately demand is based historically on people having jobs that give them income, and if demand goes down, it creates further slack in the labor market, which creates high unemployment, which, again, high unemployment, let's be honest, this all boils down to mostly what capital wants. High unemployment, not good for capital, because if you have a bunch of unemployed people, they tend to get unhappy pretty quickly, and that's not great for capital. Likewise, if you have high inflation because there's too much demand, It's also not great for capital because, like that pressures margins and people get unhappy. And so, yeah, that's not really great, which is why, again, dirty little secret about central banks, they're bankers. They act in service of capital. The reason why they want stable inflation and low unemployment is because those are good conditions for capital. They also tend to be good conditions for labor, but ultimately the central bank, the Federal Reserve, and any other central bank, they act in service to capital in their respective countries. So where we stand right now is in a dangerous spot that is not guaranteed to go in any particular direction. My favorite metric from the jobs report that I look at every single time is what's called aggregate weekly payrolls.
Yep.
And it's a fancy way of saying, hey, give me the number of people that have jobs, give me the change over any period of time from, either the previous month or previous year, and then combine that with the change in wages over the same time. So how much did, jobs go up? What percentage did we see jobs increase? And what percentage did wages increase? And that gives you a good proxy for spending growth. If we saw, 1% job growth over the last year and 2% wage growth, okay, Americans as a whole have about 3% more spending power than a year ago, which means consumer spending can grow that much based on labor. Now, as Mike said, look, there are a bunch of people not in the labor force. If you're, listening to this and you're retired, you don't care what the labor markets do. Like, you're not sitting there, basing your spending on your job. You're basing it on your Social Security payment, on your portfolio, maybe a pension if you're still lucky to have one.
Right.
So
which is why I think this still matters, but we've seen a lot of spending. It's been really interesting over the last few years looking at surveys about how people feel about the labor market and the economy, and yet spending hasn't fallen off. And one of the large items that we've pointed to is look at that wealth effect, especially for older Americans. They seem to be the ones supporting this economy right now, and so the labor market might not really influence their decision.
But also, aggregate payroll growth has generally been around 5% year over year.
Yep.
And so given that, it's kind of hard for me to see Americans saying, no, I'm not going to spend that money, because
we always do.
We generally do.
And then some.
So here's the thing. As of last Friday's jobs report, aggregate payroll growth for the last 12 months has now decelerated to 4.28%. It's the lowest number we've had since January of 2020. And
in spite of the fact, there were some good signs from this jobs report on Friday, right? The unemployment rate dropped from 4.6 in the previous month. That was revised down. The current month, December, went down to 4.4. So, there were some positive indications in spite of a weak hiring rate in this jobs report. But those aggregate payrolls, to your point, can be a very big factor in spending.
We can spend a little bit of time just below this. If we get into the high threes for a couple of reports in a row, that's fine on year-over-year aggregate payroll growth. But the event horizon that we've seen, again, we haven't seen many recessions since this metric was available, but you start getting below 3.5, and things get problematic just because, think about it from a hiring perspective. Again, I say this a lot, demand leads hiring. If I'm running a toy store and all of a sudden I got, all these people coming in and I got lines out the door, okay, I got to hire some cashiers, some stock boys. We got to get in business. I got to hire up for that.
Right.
If I've hired all those people and then people stop coming in, okay, demand is gone. Bye, I got to get rid of you. That's kind of what we see. So the concern that you have is if demand weakens, then hiring weakens further, and you get kind of this flywheel effect where in most recessions, then you see big job loss quickly. This is just one data point, but the other one that meshes up with this is actually directly from the U.S. Treasury, and specifically, it's looking at tax withholding. And the reason why I like this one is there is no interpolation. You don't have to interpret it. You don't have to be oh, this is just a survey. No, this is how many dollars were sent to the U.S. Treasury each day by businesses to pay their payroll taxes. And over the last 6 months, we've seen a slowing in that rate from about 7.4% year-over-year growth in June of this year down to 1.7% year-over-year growth in December. End of year, always can be a little bit wonky, so we have to see a couple more months to see exactly how this plays out. But this has been in play each of the last 5 months. It's been a downtrend for the entire second half of the year. And so the concerning piece here is, again, if you go, into negative numbers on this, it suggests that you are shedding not just payroll, but you're shedding spending power of Americans. And that makes it really tough for the economy to grow based on how we typically grow it. So it's not to say that you are going to see this continue or it's going to, become a problem, but there's a 2 or 3 month period now where we've got to pay pretty close attention to this. And it's ultimately something where I think if there is no weakness that develops in the next 2 to 3 months, then I think by March and April, you start to get larger tax refunds coming in from last year from, no tax on tips and other big, beautiful bill provisions that I think can propel the economy forward. But if you see problems show up over the next 2 to 3 months, they might start to spiral before those bigger, tax rebate checks can come in to balance things out. So this is kind of what I'm watching in the labor market. It's a dangerous position that it's in. I'm not 100% convinced that it rolls over further from here, but it's the thing to watch in the next couple months. Let's take a quick break. When we return, let's see. I had something else I wanted to get to next. What was it? I don't know. We'll talk Mag 7 after this.
Breaking business news as it happens, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com. When a loved one needs a nursing home, decisions need to be made quickly. If you haven't started planning yet, get Cushing & Dolan's new guide called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. In it, you'll learn how to make smart decisions and avoid unnecessary expenses. Call 866-848-5699 to get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. This is a message for families who've been putting off their estate planning from the elder law attorneys at Cushing & Dolan. One of the biggest myths about long-term care is that if you didn't plan 5 years ahead, you're out of options. That's simply not true. When a health crisis hits and a loved one needs nursing home care, many families panic and start writing checks for care that may cost over $10,000 a month. The reality is, there may still be meaningful legal options available, even when planning starts late. Cushing & Dolan have just released a new guide called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. It breaks down what the 5-year look-back really means and what steps can still be considered before making decisions that can be incredibly costly. If you're worried about protecting your family and securing your financial future, call Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699 to get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your day snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Piece in the Bloomberg. Magnificent Seven stock market dominance shows signs of cracking. Look, I gotta tell you, eventually it will, but I've seen this story at least a half dozen times over the last 2 years where Mag 7 stocks underperform for a week, a month, even a quarter, even half a year. And it still is not enough to free the market from that black hole of pull towards them.
I want to quote this piece because it's also just inaccurate. All right, so the article, I'm going to read it. To beat the markets in recent years, many investors applied a simple strategy. Load up on the biggest U.S. technology stocks. It paid handsomely for a long time. Last year it didn't. Then they go on to say, the Bloomberg Magnificent 7 index rose 25% in 2025 compared to 16% for the S&P 500.
So that means that
how did it not pay off? It literally paid off.
It says, but that was only because of the enormous gains by
Who
Alphabet
cares?
and NVIDIA. Well, they're in the group, so what are you going to do? Like, my goodness, it's not like every single one outperforms every year.
So here is the point that they're making is that more of the components of the Mag 7 underperformed than overperformed, but I would argue that that is irrelevant, sir.
And
also, who wrote this?
Person.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
Beyond
From
that,
Bloomberg.
Could have been AI.
No, AI wouldn't do that.
That's true.
AI would only talk itself up, as we've discussed. But look, the fact is, at some point, that AI growth narrative is going to break.
Hasn't yet, though.
I don't know if it's going to be this year or in 30 years. It could be either or somewhere in between. It's probably not going to be never.
I'd be willing to bet it's somewhere in between. But
between this year and 30 years?
Yeah. Yeah, that seems like an easy bet.
Put it on the board, Tucker.
Yeah. But yeah, this is not a useful or frankly even accurately written piece in many fashions.
This is a message for families who've been putting off their estate planning from the elder law attorneys at Cushing & Dolan. One of the biggest myths about long-term care is that if you didn't plan 5 years ahead, you're out of options. Well, that's simply not true. When a health crisis hits and a loved one needs nursing home care, many families panic and start writing checks for care that may cost over $10,000 a month. Well, the reality is there may still be meaningful legal options available even when planning starts late. Cushing & Dolan have just released a new guide called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. It breaks down what the 5-year look back really means and what steps can still be considered before making decisions that can be incredibly costly. If you're worried about protecting your family and securing your financial future, call Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699 to get your free guide today. That's 848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Wall Street Journal exclusive, GOP lawmakers back stock trading crackdown. House Republicans, including GOP leaders, are lining up behind a stock trading crackdown that they think is their best shot at addressing long simmering concerns about lawmakers potentially profiting off insider information. Good. Like, quite honestly, if you are a member of Congress, you should not be allowed to own individual stocks, in my opinion.
And this doesn't go quite that far, but I do applaud it because it cuts out a lot of this stuff.
Still
so
better.
Here's what it doesn't prevent. In February of 2020, a bunch of lawmakers get a bunch of briefings on what's going on in Wuhan, China, and can see the train coming down the track and say, I'm going to sell all of my funds that hold U.S. stocks because, I know what's happening here. This doesn't prevent that in any way. You can still go and offload your diversified funds that hold a whole bunch of stocks. But the stuff that's far more common of lawmakers seemingly getting some sort of information about a new regulation or a new court case coming down that's going to dramatically affect one individual company, it does prohibit. It makes it so new purchases of individual companies are out. You can't do it anymore. And if you want to sell something, you must make a public filing at least 7 days in advance. So
it's a start.
I think this is better than where we are now. It still leaves a lot of opportunity for insider trading that will be difficult to prosecute, but it cuts a fair bit of it out. I like the move. I think it's a step in the right direction, and frankly, any action here I would applaud. So yeah, this would be good.
Counterpoint. Prediction markets.
Right. So can I, as a lawmaker, gamble on whether or not the House will pass a certain bill? Today you can.
I'm just saying that would seem to be a little bit problematic.
And they didn't really exist a decade ago, so God
they didn't
knows
really exist like 3 years ago in any meaningful size.
Before we pass any
legislation
on that.
Look, in a perfect world, you get elected to Congress, great. All of your holdings can go into basically the equivalent of whatever the TSP funds are. The G fund, the C fund, the I fund.
Well, again, they can still hold their individual stock once they come in. Ideally, sorry.
I'm saying ideally. Look, you go into that, you can rebalance it every quarter if you want to, but that's all you can do, in my opinion. Because if you are elected to serve the people, then go and serve the people. If you want to make money, then
go work on Wall Street.
Then go somewhere else.
Other point here, I don't see anything written about spouses. I would hope that they are covered under this. But if they're not, it's problematic.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's been the entire argument over Pelosi. It's not her conducting the trading, it's her husband. Like, there has to be something in here. And I assume there probably is about spouses, but if not, there needs to be.
Yeah.
Immediate family household members is really what this needs to apply to.
So, again, I'll take a step in the right direction. It's good, but I personally still want more in this case. But, look, steps in the right direction, fine. Like, I won't... I won't look a gift horse that has not yet been gifted in the mouth. Why would you not look a gift horse in the mouth? What happens if you do that?
Oh, you don't want to know, Chuck.
I've never received a gift horse, so I don't know.
If you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Here's a gift. It's a horse.
It's a horse. Oh, don't look at it.
Thanks, man.
Well, how do I know if it's good then?
Don't really have a stable, but thanks.
Yeah, it can go in the garage. Let me get it up on the lift, see how it does.
Get a receipt.
It's got a lot of horsepower. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, hour 2 coming up.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away, but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your day snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group. We have a guide available this month titled How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. Mike, when we talk about actually determining when to apply, there are a few different factors that go into it, but I think really the specifics of, hey, if I want money at date X, when do I apply is kind of at the crux of this.
Oh, sure. And, oftentimes when you go to apply, they will actually tell you that they're backdating your application to the date that you apply. And so your first check might include a few checks of Social Security. You do have to be specific about when you request the actual start date. The good news is you do get a prorated increase for, we talk about this in years, but you do get a prorated increase for every month that you end up delaying your Social Security benefit. And you can be highly specific about when you actually want the income to start.
How does one go about determining what age they actually should start Social Security?
Yeah, look, every actuary out there will tell you this is all a life expectancy question and calculation. I'll tell you there's more to it than that, but it is highly specific to each individual. When am I retiring? When is my spouse retiring? When do I actually need this money to kick in? My backup plan for covering my expenses if it doesn't kick in right away. So yes, life expectancy, a major factor in the decision, but there are other questions to be answered as well.
Our guide is titled How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare, and the ways that you can request it, there's 2 of them. First, you can call 800-393-3675. 800-435-4001. The second way, you can go to armstrongadvisory.com. Again, that phone number is 800-393-4001 or request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. From the other law attorneys at Cushing & Dolan, here's something you need to hear. Most people think long-term care planning is something they'll get to someday, until suddenly someday is today. When a spouse or parent needs nursing home care and no planning was done, the costs can be overwhelming. Cushing & Dolan are elder law and estate planning attorneys who help New England families protect their homes, savings, and retirement, even when a health crisis comes out of nowhere. They've just released a new guide called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. It explains what options may still be available and what steps you should take before writing that first check to a nursing home. If you've been putting this off, or a loved one needs care right now, time matters. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 to get your free guide. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated.
This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you, and we've got markets not really doing much of anything, quite honestly.
They're selling off in early trading this morning. And
I bet at this very minute.
Yeah.
You know, like the S&P is literally flat on the day.
Yeah.
Dow was off 86 points. The NASDAQ composite's up 23. So it's like everything's within like a tenth or 0.2 of a percent of where it closed. 10-year Treasury selling off again, like 1.4 basis points, almost nothing, 4.185%. Dollar index down 0.36% to 98.535.
The one place you are seeing a fair bit of volatility.
Metals. Yeah. Same place you've been seeing it for the last few months.
Silver up $6 an ounce to up 7.75%, and gold up $130, 2.9% on the day.
I love gold.
Thank you,
Tucker.
you, gold member.
And
gold member. What's his name? Yeah. Gold member. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's make sure.
And then we've got crude oil, West Texas Intermediate, down 4 cents a barrel to $59.07. The AAA national average for gas prices up 0.1 cent to $2.79 So market's pretty quiet. This despite the announcement from the Federal Reserve late last night that Jerome Powell is now subject to criminal proceedings in a grand jury based out of the D.C. area. We don't know anything more on the specifics, but Powell did release a pretty combative for him statement last night that's about 2 minutes long, in which he said this is ostensibly about the renovation and my testimony to Congress, but make no mistake, this is actually about the fact that I'm not cutting interest rates as fast as the White House wants me to.
Remember, so I think the important things to consider with this, we have talked at length on this program about the importance of central bank independence and not allowing the president to direct interest rate setting policy. It can have some pretty ugly effects, and we've seen that in other countries. When I've been thinking through the second and third order implications for all of this, I think what becomes clear is it sets up the Federal Reserve and the White House on a collision course that's pretty unavoidable at this point, and that's in spite of the fact that Jay Powell is going to be out of his role in May.
I think it's potentially avoidable. I think that, here's the thing. I'm not saying that this will or won't happen, but when it comes to the Fed, we've been seeing this game of cat and mouse for the last year now. And to this point, nothing's actually happened. I'm not saying that it will or won't. I'm just saying, I don't know, the White House likes to float trial balloons on the Fed left and right. I can count at least 3 or 4 separate instances where this has been the case. And if the market doesn't move the way that they want it to based on it, they tend to go in the other direction. And I think they're fine with it either way.
Yeah, I think where I see maybe collision course is too strong a phrasing then. Let's say this is all dismissed by the grand jury and nothing moves on it and we move along here. I just think that at this stage now, there is this implied threat from the White House that, hey, if you don't follow along with my suggestions, this is what can result. And so therefore, you never know how the board members are going to react, but my guess would be that several of them might dig in further here, and the next Federal Reserve chair could be met by a pretty hostile voting board. I think is what is a very likely possible outcome, I guess, would be a board of members who don't seem to have much of a problem with Jay Powell and probably have clearly worked well with him over the years and are looking at this and saying, are we going to stand for it? Are we going to fight for our independence? And my guess would be they're going to fight for their independence just like Jay Powell is currently. So my sense is to be this makes the next chair's job significantly harder to direct whatever their policy looks like, presumably lower interest rates. It's going to make the job tougher given this implied threat.
Wall Street Journal report, actually not a report, I guess. This was a post by the president on Truth Social on, it was late Friday afternoon or Friday evening, I believe, where he basically said, I'll read some of the quotes from it. Please be informed that we will no longer let the American public be ripped off by credit card companies that are charging rates of interest rates of 20 to 30% and even more. He then said that there will be a 10% cap that is put in place beginning on January 20th. Now, it's unclear what authority the White House has to actually do this, but the fact is, whenever you try, and we've talked about this with rent control.
Yeah.
Whenever you try to control the price of something, what you end up doing is restricting the supply of it. It's why whenever rent control gets proposed by someone running for the mayor of Boston or New York City or San Francisco, we sit there and we say, guys, this isn't actually going to solve the housing problem. It's going to end up, with fewer units being constructed and available.
So I am very suspicious that this will ever pass or go into effect. But I take your point that, look, banks reserve the right to cancel your credit card at their discretion. Pretty much at their discretion. They can use any number of reasons to do so. And so the
only one they can't is that they don't like you.
Yeah, I mean, they can't do it based on protected classes and things like that, but very easy for them to say, okay, well, previously we were willing to extend credit cards to anyone with a credit score of X. Now, given these new caps, we're going to be canceling credit cards for anyone with a credit score under 650. That is well within their rights to do so. And so what is the likely outcome of a cap on interest rates? Fewer extensions of credit and a problem with a bunch of Americans being able to borrow money.
Or, I'll put the other piece out there, Or, okay, you're going to cap how much we can make on credit card interest rates? Great. How would you like higher mortgage rates? Or how would you like to be paying more in checking account fees?
Or late account fees on your credit card.
Like, it's any time that you try to micromanage one part of the economy, you end up with it's playing whack-a-mole, except the moles get, like, they come out of unexpected places, not just the thing that you're trying to whack. California says, hey, the fast food minimum wage can be this, but the rest of the minimum wage is that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we don't really know what the ramifications of that are going to be. Likewise, if you do find a way to cap credit card interest rates at 10%, which, again, it's unclear that the White House possesses the ability to do so.
It's actually pretty clear that they don't, because when President Biden tried to cap credit card late fees at $8, Texas court shut it down.
Okay.
So I think that it's unlikely to pass, but yeah, the likely effects would probably not be great for consumers, would be my guess.
You likely have a significant contraction in available credit for Americans, which then probably means, based on what I know about Americans and their spending habits, I'm one of them, we tend to spend up to the level that the banks allow us to, and I think it would probably have some pretty nasty repercussions for the American economy if tens of millions of people suddenly had their credit cards canceled.
By the way, we didn't have to go think about this for a while because this is not a new idea. Senator Bernie Sanders proposed this and put forward a bill in February of 2025 proposing exactly this, 10% credit card interest rates. He co-sponsored it with Senator Josh Hawley. So this is not a new idea. This is something that has been proposed by many populists over the course of the last few years, and we have thought about it and kind of considered what the ramifications would be here. And so, unless Congress is going to pass the law, I don't think it's going to happen. B, if it did, I'm not sure it would result in the things that the president actually wants.
It's also a Band-Aid that doesn't address the root cause. The problem is not that too many Americans are paying 25% on a credit card bill. The problem is, why do they have that outstanding bill to begin with?
Yeah.
And until you can address the root causes, trying to lower the interest rate on that, it ain't going to do it anyways. Like that's not going to be the solution. The question is, why are there that many people that have that much outstanding such that they're paying that interest?
If rent is too high, you don't impose rent control. If credit card payments are too high, you don't propose caps on credit cards. And what's another one that we've toyed with over the last few years that just...
Groceries. We had the grocery thing.
If home affordability doesn't work, you don't cap what banks can charge in mortgage rates.
Remember the Harris campaign was saying we're going to cap, grocery rate increases at like X%. Okay,
shortages.
Good luck getting your groceries then.
So the same thing will apply here. You cap what companies can charge, and you will have shortages. So want to break up the banks because they're too big and there's too much, Visa holds too much power over consumers? All on board.
Right, you want more competition for credit card rates? Okay, have at it.
That doesn't have to do with credit card rates, but, it's built in, the transaction fees and stuff like that. But, yeah, that is not likely, in my view, to solve the problem here.
Let's take a quick break. When we return, we've got trivia right after this.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your day snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com. If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your days snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com. This is a message for families who've been putting off their estate planning from the elder law attorneys at Cushing & Dolan. One of the biggest myths about long-term care is that if you didn't plan 5 years ahead, you're out of options. That's simply not true. When a health crisis hits and a loved one needs nursing home care, many families panic and start writing checks for care that may cost over $10,000 a month. The reality is, there may still be meaningful legal options available, even when planning starts late. Cushing & Dolan have just released a new guide called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. It breaks down what the 5-year look-back really means and what steps can still be considered before making decisions that can be incredibly costly. If you're worried about protecting your family and securing your financial future, call Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699 to get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit goredforwomen.org today to learn more.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Hear the Financial Exchange every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Keep it here for the latest business and financial news and the trends on Wall Street. The Financial Exchange is now live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is incredibly proud to be a partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Planning is well underway for the 2026 DAV 5K. The event sold out in record time last year, so head to dav5k.boston for all the information about how you can participate this November or make a donation to support our great American heroes. Your gifts help fund free rides to medical appointments for veterans and the nation's first DAV-led housing initiative, providing homes for single veterans and veteran families. Go to dav5k.boston and make your donation today. That's dav5k.boston. Boston. Time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange, and today is Jeff Bezos's 62nd birthday. Bezos founded Amazon in 1994, originally as an online bookstore, as we all know. At one point during Bezos' tenure as CEO, Amazon became the world's most valuable company. So our trivia question today, what year did Jeff Bezos step down as Amazon CEO? Once again, what year did Jeff Bezos step down as Amazon CEO? Be the fourth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer. You can win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the fourth correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 along with the keyword trivia will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
I want to talk a little bit about Florida real estate. There is a piece that's out in the Wall Street Journal today, and I'm going to quote from it here. Although older people continue to arrive in greater numbers than those who leave, that net migration is varied by income bracket in the past decade. In 2023, it grew 5% from a decade earlier for households with inflation-adjusted incomes of at least $125,000 and headed by someone 65 or older. By comparison, the flow of similar households with inflated adjusted incomes of $75,000 or less shrank by 44%. Again, these are inflation-adjusted incomes, so it's not just, inflation made this happen.
Sure.
No, this is, there's something going on here. And quite honestly, the something going on is the insurance premiums for owning a house. And the other piece is that if you look at mobile home communities, as has been happening in just about every other industry, there's been a ton of consolidation and private equity money going in, and the new owners are jacking up the rents of the land, making them unaffordable for families who want to move down there in what are typically, affordable places to live.
I don't want to make this overly complicated. Florida is not as cheap as it used to be.
No.
So, I mean, interestingly, I was taking a look. NerdWallet has a nice, easy cost of living calculator that you can compare different cities. So when you compare to the highest cost areas in the country, like Boston or New York City, yeah, Florida's still cheaper.
How much cheaper?
So Boston, I just chose two cities. Boston compared to Tampa.
Sure.
If you have a $150,000 income in Boston, you would need an income of about $100,000 to maintain that same cost of living, according to NerdWallet.
So it's about
Housing
30%
costs
cheaper.
60% cheaper than Boston. Healthcare costs 35% cheaper. Food costs higher, but a lot of these things are cheaper. But this article talks about a family from Michigan, and so if we take a look at Detroit compared to Tampa, it's about the same. Tampa is about 5% cheaper than what you would experience in Detroit. If you're listening from Portland, Maine right now, there's only a 15% cost of living difference between going down to Florida. That gap used to just be bigger. I think plain and simple, that's the story here is a bunch of people moved to Florida. It drove prices higher. There are other factors at work too, but largely I think it's been a change in net migration and the cost of housing has gone up, not only because more people are living there, also because of insurance-related issues that are unique to Florida and a few other places.
But the interesting thing to me is this is not just a Florida phenomenon. The 2010s, in my opinion, one of the defining features was people moving from high cost of living areas to low cost of living areas for a massive delta in that cost.
Specifically retirees.
No, even not even retirees.
Yeah. Okay.
Like think about your friends, Mike, back when you were like 27. And think about the ones who were like, hey, I moved out to Denver, and think about how it's so cheap out here and all I do is ski and I hike and it's so cheap. Denver is freaking expensive now.
Yeah.
You go and you look at, again, like you can kind of like go down the list of yuppie millennial cities. It's my defining characteristic.
Raleigh.
Nashville.
Like
you can go through this.
Salt Lake.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
These are places that used to be cheap that, for better or for worse, have gotten overrun by our friends. And we might have screwed them up a little bit in doing so. But nature is healing.
Get made fun of for wearing a cowboy hat in Austin.
Listen, I've been to Austin a number of times. It's great, but like
bunch of tech bros will run you out of the bar.
Right. It's different from what it was 10, 15 years ago. So I guess where I'm going is nature's starting to heal in some respects. In that if you look at what's going on with home prices in Austin, just as an example, they're down like 17% in the last year and a half now.
You know what's really interesting to me, too, is I don't know that Gen X wants to retire to Florida and Arizona. Again, I know we're talking about all these groups, but I don't hear, when I speak to Gen X clients and folks what's the oldest Gen Xer right now? Probably pushing 60 something.
Like 61, 62 probably.
So do you hear that demo talking about relocating to Florida and Arizona? I just don't. And you know what? We talk about how these things are going to change and then they don't, so maybe they're just not at that stage of life yet. But I don't hear it as this goal. In fact, I hear it mocked a little bit from that generation.
I don't know. I don't think I have enough talking experience with that demo to be able to say, yes, like it's definitively different from before or the same as before.
I'll also say I hear a lot more people talking about, hey, if I really want to save on cost of living, I'm going to go to Costa Rica or Portugal. Again, something that wouldn't have been even considered by some previous generations. Again, these are all just my own narratives that I'm hearing of, what does it look like to move abroad? The dollar goes a long way. Florida's not as cheap as it used to. I'll be very interested to see, hey, does that next generation of retirees still find Florida and Phoenix to be desirable?
Part of me wonders how much of that is there's a big swath of baby boomers and silent generation members before them that owned those places as second properties even before they retired. And that's different because of the affordability now.
Yeah.
Quick break here. Wall Street Watch is next with the trivia answer as well.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
Social Security and Medicare are oftentimes lumped together, but may be handled separately. And depending on your strategy, they could shape your entire retirement plan. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Choosing when to start Social Security has many effects, including determining the amount of guaranteed income you receive each month. Medicare decisions go beyond coverage as they can impact premiums, out-of-pocket costs, and access to providers throughout retirement. Our new guide is called How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. It will help you learn how these decisions may fit together and how to take the right steps at the right time to build a secure retirement plan. Call us at 800-3 800-393-4001 to get your copy of How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request it online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange legal quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about last-minute nursing home lessons that can help save your assets. Todd, more and more people are providing in-home care for their loved ones. Is there anything a care provider can do that would be beneficial to them or the family?
So if you're already providing care for an individual at home, and more people, as you said, are in fact doing that, the best thing to do is to set up a personal care contract, right? A personal care contract is something that allows you to get paid by your family member, and as long as you report it on your income tax return and prepare a personal care contract, make sure you get an elder law lawyer to help you prepare that contract because it's got to be done right. But if you do those two things, get the contract and provide the care and put the income on your income tax return, the transfers are non-disqualifying transfers. So even if you don't make the 5 years, those dollars that you're moving will not need to be returned and they will be protected. Also, while you're doing that, set up the trust and get the 5-year clock started. Put some assets in because you just never know if you're going to make it or not, and you would always want to have that 5-year clock running to protect your assets.
Cushing & Dolan has written a brand new guide, especially for those of you who have put off doing your planning and are now faced with a last-minute nursing home situation. Request this brand new guide from Cushing & Dolan. It's called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. You can call 866-848-5699, or you can simply request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. Once again, simply call 866-848-5699, or get it from their website at legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, markets started the day in sell-off mode, but have since evened out as traders prepare for a busy week ahead, including a fresh look at inflation tomorrow morning, in addition to retail sales and bank earnings this week. But the big story today surrounds the Fed after news that U.S. prosecutors are investigating Fed Chair Jerome Powell over his testimony about the central bank's building renovation project. Right now, the Dow is down by over 0.1% or 78 points lower. S&P 500 is up only 1 point. NASDAQ is up 0.2% or 52 points higher. Russell 2000 is completely flat. 10-year Treasury yield up 1 basis point at 4.189%, and crude oil up about 0.4%, trading at $59.35 a barrel. Several bank stocks seeing losses on the day after President Trump called for credit card rates to be capped at 10% for 1 year. Trump did not provide additional details on how it would work. JP Morgan, Visa, and MasterCard are down anywhere between 1% and 2%. Meanwhile, according to CNBC, Apple is joining forces with Google to power its AI features for products such as Siri later this year. Alphabet shares are up about 0.25%. Alphabet also hit $4 trillion in market cap this morning. In more developments on the Warner Brothers Discovery front, Paramount said this morning it plans to launch a proxy fight for board seats at Warner Brothers Discovery as it continues pushing its hostile bid for the company. Paramount also filed a lawsuit seeking to force Warner to release more information about its merger agreement with Netflix. Warner stock is off about 2%. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch. And in the previous segment, we asked you the trivia question, what year did Jeff Bezos step down as Amazon CEO? Well, that would be 2021. Dan from Brinfield, Mass. is our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Congrats to Dan. We play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Piece in Barron's, retiring early is looking more difficult. The new game plans. What are we talking about here, Michael?
Well, there's been this movement for a better part of a decade, and finally, well, more recently as adopted the acronym FIRE for financially independent, retire early. And the FIRE movement was kind of extreme. It was the idea of, hey, save 50 to 70% of your income, live really conservatively, and if you do, you might be able to pull off retirement at like 40.
Eat one bean a day.
Right. Like, it was, like a very...
It was a very aggressive movement to cut expenses and maximize savings. I think oftentimes in the early days of it, like very much at the expense of quality of life.
Right. And so they make the argument that that's tougher to do now. I think the one area where I would agree would be we've had much more inflation over the course of the last 10 years than we did the previous 10 or the previous 20 or really any time period since the 70s or 80s. And if we continue to, then it will make it more difficult in the future as well. Everything else that they talk about in here, though, sequence of return risk, inflation risk, those aren't more... Sorry, the inflation risk might be more pronounced now than it was before, but the sequence of return risk, to me, is not any more pronounced and more of an issue now than it was a decade ago. I think the only thing that, you have to be thinking about now, if you're thinking about it, is markets are extremely expensive right now, so will I have that disastrous sequence of return early on in my retirement plan?
Yeah, and I think that ultimately all of these, even you mentioned, the inflation risk being higher now, I don't know that it is higher. It's just, hey, in the recent history, that inflation risk had turned into realized inflation in a way that it hadn't for the last 40 years. But that risk is always out there and always present. And so I think the big thing is if you're talking about an early retirement, whether that's a retirement at 62 or retirement at 42, like however you want to define, early, like it can mean different things to different people.
Hint, the 42 one is going to be tougher than the 62 one.
Ultimately, it boils down to the same two things. How much do you spend and how much do you save?
Yeah.
And it's the interplay between those.
That sequence of return thing, I just want to point it out as because all the, investment or financial advisor people listening right now understand this and have studied it. But if you are planning on, let's call it a 50-year retirement, sequence of return risk, what it's really talking about here is if you average a 7% investment return throughout the course of your 40 years, the results to whether or not you have enough money to retire can vary dramatically depending on how you get that average 7%.
Yes.
Largely, if you have a big market crash the day you retire, the likelihood of you getting there is dramatically kneecapped if that sequence of return hits you early on. And so that's what they're talking about with this. But I think the key message is a lot of people love the idea of retiring early. I think all of us love the idea of retiring or slowing down in our work earlier than anticipated. And I think the message that I have is it is tough enough to retire on time. It requires a lot of discipline. If you're going to do so early, then you need to have a plan in place well ahead of time. And you have to be considering these things like sequence of return risk. You have to be testing the idea of what if inflation runs a percentage point higher than what I am anticipating, because when you retire early, that's years and it's not only the missed out income and savings that you won't have, it is the extra years of taking money out of your savings that you have to plan for. Not to mention all the other complexities. When is my Social Security going to start? How am I going to get health insurance? If I have kids, what stage of life are they going to be in? Are they going to need financial assistance that I've planned for? There are a ton of questions that come along with the idea of retiring early. They are not insurmountable. I know plenty of people that retire before 65 and make do without Medicare for a period of time.
Sure.
You just have to do the planning. If you could use some assistance on that planning piece, call Armstrong Advisory Group. It's what we do for hundreds of clients. We would love to do it for you too. Talk to us about what those plans really are and how you might be able to achieve them. The number's 800-393-4001. You can book your time for us to call you as well at armstrongadvisory.com, but that number is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
I want to talk a little bit about this Market Watch piece on millennials. Because
are we really still allowed to whine? Millennials?
I do it all the time.
Yeah, I guess.
I actually don't. My daughter does, but she's 5.
I guess I whine all the time.
I did 20 minutes ago in the break.
You didn't really whine, though.
It's more of a heavy cry.
with bouts of laughing in between.
It's just silence afterwards from the studio.
So there's this piece here. It's titled, "There's Nothing We Can Do. The Great Millennial Career Crisis Has Workers Giving Up on Ever Owning Homes or Paying Off Their Student Loans." So 2 things are true at the same time. The first is there are millennials that are in positions where, because of the decisions they made on how to pay for college, most notably when they were younger, they're basically screwed unless their financial situation changes dramatically.
Agreed. And I agree that sucks because I don't think as a 16 or 17-year-old you had the qualifications to be able to make that decision, but nonetheless, there you are.
Quite honestly, like, no one tells you what it means to borrow $100,000. They just say, hey, here's the money. It's pretty unethical what we do to people to have them make those decisions.
Sure.
With that. I don't think we give them enough information to make an informed decision. I do think millennial parents who have gone through this now are not going to make the same decisions with their kids, though.
Agreed.
But the other piece that I will say, because this piece is all about, these millennials that are in these difficult situations financially. Basically, every metric out there that compares on an inflation-adjusted basis, millennial homeownership rates, investment savings rates, portfolio sizes, everything with prior generations.
We're right there.
Shows that they're pretty much in line with prior generations.
Yep.
And so there is no meaningful difference in the aggregate amount of, wealth saved and generated and earned by millennials.
So I'm looking at a chart right now. This is data from First American, which is a title services company who obviously cares about home ownership rates because that's how they make all their money. Millennials did trail behind just about every other generation in terms of home ownership for quite a period of time. It took us longer to get into those homes.
Yeah.
Today, however, with the oldest millennials, I think, being 41 or 42 years old, we have surpassed now Gen X homeownership rates at that same age.
Yes.
And we're closing in on boomers and the silent generation and all of those others.
It's within like a couple percentage points now.
We are right there, and we're past, again, we are past Gen X in terms of homeownership rates by early 40s. So we were delayed. But again, every generation has different challenges. Gen Z is staring at a bunch of them right now. Like homeowner affordability for Gen Z in their 20s is a lot worse than it was for millennials.
And if you want to go back and look at other financial issues, I mean, take Gen X just as an example. So Gen X, again, you were kind of coming of age in 1980. Like Gen X prime earning years got whacked 1-2 by tech bubble and financial crisis.
Mm-hmm.
You go back and you look at the boomers. Okay, your prime earning years, you get whacked by inflation for a decade. Go back and look at the silent generation. Okay, maybe you had things fine economically. You had to fight World War II. Like, that's worse than any of us have had to deal with just in terms of,
And boomers had that, too, with a different war. So, a lot of them fought Vietnam. I want to acknowledge that the last 2 generations have not had...
Millennials had global war on terror.
Yeah,
which, admittedly, did some real damage to a large number of people. But, again, no generation gets out without dealing with something going on financially. You go, what was before the silent generation? I don't even know. They had the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
There's no free lunch. There's a reason why they say that is because there is actually no free lunch. They say there's free lunch, but there is none. Yeah. We all got to pay for lunch somehow.
So which one is the worst generation, though?
That we dislike the most?
You interpret it however you want.
Well, Gen X will always say that no one talks about them, so they're just happy that we're mentioning them today.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's that. We love you, Gen X. Let's take a quick break here, and when we return, Stack Roulette.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Subscribe to our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. This is a message for families who've been putting off their estate planning from the elder law attorneys at Cushing & Dolan. One of the biggest myths about long-term care is that if you didn't plan 5 years ahead, you're out of options. That's simply not true. When a health crisis hits and a loved one needs nursing home care, many families panic and start writing checks for care that may cost over $10,000 a month. The reality is, there may still be meaningful legal options available, even when planning starts late. Cushing & Dolan have just released a new guide called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. It breaks down what the 5-year look-back really means and what steps can still be considered before making decisions that can be incredibly costly. If you're worried about protecting your family and securing your financial future, call Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699 to get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your days snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Social Security and Medicare are oftentimes lumped together, but may be handled separately. And depending on your strategy, they could shape your entire retirement plan. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Choosing when to start Social Security has many effects, including determining the amount of guaranteed income you receive each month. Medicare decisions go beyond coverage as they can impact premiums, out-of-pocket costs, and access to providers throughout retirement. Our new guide is called How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. It will help you learn how these decisions may fit together and how to take the right steps at the right time to build a secure retirement plan. Call us at 800-393-4001 to get your copy of How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request it online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up.
Because we have something better.
Stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
The Financial Exchange is now available every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Stay informed about the latest from Wall Street, fiscal policy, and breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. Experience America's Caribbean and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands while enjoying incredible beaches, world-class cuisine, and unforgettable sunsets. The weather is perfect all year round, so head to visit usvi.com and book your trip to St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John. Enjoy one or all three and enjoy the vacation of a lifetime. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Plan your winter escape now at visit usvi.com. That's visit usvi.com.
Mike, what do you got for Stack Roulette?
Walmart is teaming up with Google's Gemini to try and make it easier for shoppers to find and buy products. And I have no real semblance of an idea of how successful or unsuccessful this is going to be. This is not how I use artificial intelligence in any way today. It's also pretty reminiscent of the arguments I remember hearing about the amount of money that Amazon was pouring into Alexa during its early stages. Sorry for everyone whose home speaker just beeped. But the argument there was, hey, if we roll out this really intelligent home device that you can speak to, then people are going to order more stuff from Amazon, and it didn't happen. Just plain and simple, there's no evidence to support that those devices resulted in bigger purchases. And so I guess my question is, what about this tie-up is going to make it so that people will spend more at Walmart? And you know, again, maybe this is different this time. I don't really see why it would be. Like, again, they're pretty good at, I can see how they might be good at saying, hey, summarize customer reviews for me of this type of product and this, that, or the other. But is it going to result in me clicking purchase more frequently? Yeah, I don't see a lot of evidence. We'll see.
It's going to be wild when the only mass market uses of AI are to sell ads.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
where we're going.
Here's the thing. I hold two thoughts in my head at the same time on this. The first is every single person I know that works in tech development is like, this is game-changing stuff because it lets them code completely differently than they did previously.
Yep.
But there's also a shocking lack of understanding that 330 million Americans do not work in coding. Like I'm guessing it's probably a couple million, like 2 to 3 million Americans do. And you get these pieces that are like,
and not for long, by the way.
This is transformed like the way that I work because it can do like iterations on this in the background and do this and that. And I read these things and I'm like, wow, like that's really cool. And then I think about like what everyone else does for work, which is not coding.
Not a lot of use cases.
Like I've actually heard now instances at 2 companies where leaders have banned their teams from using ChatGPT to write emails because they're just getting sick of seeing them. They're like, I know that this is a 57-year-old guy who's worked with me for 30 years. His emails are usually all lowercase, like spelling errors and everything, but I know it's him writing it. And now I'm just getting crap that's being fed to me.
And it's so 14 paragraphs long.
And it's not him, and I don't like that. Yeah. So like I have people that are getting that. I have other ones that are like, no, this is making up, fake stuff. So the two thoughts that I hold are, look, for certain jobs, I think that this is absolutely transformative stuff. For the vast majority of Americans, I don't know if they actually want anything to do with AI. I just don't think they do. Or at least not enough to make it as interesting financially as it's priced right now. And
find out pretty soon.
Yeah, we're going to find out in the next couple of years. I want to talk about beans.
Go for it.
Did you know that there is a quarterly bean club?
Like the Jelly of the Month Club?
Rancho Gordo. Okay, founded in 2019. They're now selling 2.5 million pounds of beans a year. I don't know if that's a lot or little. I mean, it sounds like it's a lot, but it's probably a little in the broad scheme of beans.
These are not coffee beans. These are
bean beans.
Bean beans.
So they've got all different kinds. They've got black, white, navy, red, King City pink, green baby lima, yellow split pea. They've got their eye of the goat beans that are out there.
So why is this special? Because I walk down the grocery aisle and I see giant bags of beans for days. And cans of beans.
I guess these taste better for some reason, I guess. And I don't really know. And I say this, look, I'm as pro-bean as you get.
They've got a wait list.
So yesterday, daughter wakes up from her nap. What do you want for a snack? Beans. We had a bean snack together.
Just eating straight out of the can with a
straight
spoon.
Out of the, well, you rinse them first. You know, you got to get the slime off them. But like literally sitting there, she literally goes, Daddy, will you come over and have these beans with me? And how could I say no to that?
Right.
I had to have the beans with her. They were dark red kidney beans yesterday.
Hopefully, well, this company's got a wait list for their beans, so they must be pretty special.
Must be.
Magic beans.
Wait list for beans. Markets remain broadly flat. We're done for the day. Back at it tomorrow. We'll see you then.